Coca-Cola is facing a major backlash after photos emerged where they were apparently telling their employees to be less white. As Newsweek put it, Coca-Cola facing backlash says Be Less White learning plan was about workplace inclusion. And it's illegal. Okay, listen. If they make racial stereotypes in your diversity training, that's illegal. There's a Civil Rights Act. I believe it's under Title VII. They can't discriminate on the basis of race. So when they're giving you the diversity training, basically everything they say could be in violation of civil rights law. I was having a conversation about this. I did mention this in a segment a couple days ago or last week. If I was watching a diversity training video and they started talking about stereotypes about certain races, what happens if I take offense to it and complain and say, you just showed this video mocking and deriding all of these different people? In this instance, they're doing that, and they're doing it towards white people, saying to be less white, clearly in violation of the law. But typically when we see things like this, nothing ends up happening because, well, it's acceptable. It is. I was watching Ghost. You guys you've seen Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. I was watching it this weekend just because I'm like chilling and, put on a movie. It was like Amazon recommended it, I guess. I watch a lot of horror movies, and I guess they decided that was a movie I should watch. Anyway, I started watching it, and Whoopi Goldberg's character routinely says, oh, you're white and things like that to Patrick Swayze's character. Growing up, it has typically been acceptable in media to say you're white in a derisive way or to use racial slurs targeting white people. From this, and not necessarily from it, but this contributes, there's the ideology that you can't be racist towards white people. For me, I think that's absurd. Why? Well, as most of you know, I come from a mixed background. It comes up quite a bit, became a meme for a little bit. But this is a really important point in my view of the world and my politics. When people would insult and stereotype my dad or my dad's side of the family, it didn't quite make sense because it was causing damage to a marginalized family, right? These leftists claim that they want this rainbow utopia of a future, but do everything in their power to harm people based on their race. Now, this is resulting in a really strange follow-up story I've got for outside of this, that a bunch of people in New York were marching against white nationalism because Asians are being beaten. The only problem is that many of these Asians who are being beaten by black people. It's not a problem of white nationalism. It's a problem of racism. But I suppose these individuals who are saying things like be less white actually are white supremacists or neo-racist. And the reason why I say they're white supremacists is they view white as, and look, they've told me this, above, more privileged, more powerful, in control. I don't. I've never viewed it that way. So to me, it was shockingly white supremacist. And I got to tell you, you could take quotes from these people and put it alongside quotes like the anti-racist, like woke people and white supremacists, and you'll get almost the same quote. Take a look at Ryan Long's comedy bit on this that went extremely viral, where it's a comedy bit. You have a woke guy and a racist guy, and they agree on a ton of things. So they're dating, and it's kind of, that's the joke. Well, here's the story from Newsweek about Coca-Cola. They say, Coke, facing mounting backlash from conservatives online, has responded to allegations of anti-white rhetoric after an internal whistleblower leaked screenshots of diversity training materials that encourages staff to, quote, try to be less white. Can I just point out the sheer insanity of saying they're facing a backlash from conservatives? You mean not a one liberal is saying anything about this? Not a single leftist? Come on. There are a ton of anti-woke leftists. And by a ton, I mean there's many of them. They're not the dominant faction on the left, the neo-lib, neo-racist, whatever you want to call it. They're absolutely in love with their racist ideology. But there are dirtbag leftists who hate wokeness. And I wish they weren't such dirtbags because we'd probably get along and actually enact some policies. I made a funny point earlier when I said on Twitter, I actually like Jacobin magazine. Yeah. And a bunch of people were like, whoa, but they're so bad. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things I disagree with coming from Jacobin. And there's a bunch of things I disagree with coming from, I don't know, the Federalist. But if they write something that I agree with, I'll give praise to it. And that's important. Here's a point I want to make. From Jacobin magazine, everyone hates the Democrats. Yes. Yes. Does that make me right wing because I hate the Democrats? So no. Newsweek. It's not just conservatives. But you see how they're doing this. The establishment media wants to frame anyone who opposes them as far right or right wing. And I'm sure most of you already know this. No, this is stupid. That's what it is. They say on Friday, Karlin Borisenko, an activist who supports banning critical race theory, shared images from an internal whistleblower of the company's online racism training that includes the slides included tips to learners on how to be less white, less arrogant, less certain, less defensive, less ignorant, and more humble. In the U.S. and other Western nations, white people are socialized to feel that they are inherently superior because they are white. Research shows that by age 3 to 4, children understand that it is better to be white. That wasn't a reality in my neighborhood growing up, but maybe I just come from this progressive utopia, the south side of Chicago, with all these different families of different races and backgrounds all mixing together. Isn't that what they're supposed to want? Then why demonize people based on race, and why subject people to this kind of stuff? They say a Coca-Cola spokesperson confirmed the course is, quote, part of a learning plan to help build an inclusive workplace, but also noted that the video circulating on social media is from a publicly available LinkedIn learning series and is not a focus of our company's curriculum. Sue them. Sue them. Listen, most of you probably know I come from a part Asian background. And if I was watching a video and they said something like, Asians are typically known to do these things, but these are stereotypes, I'll get offended, no matter what it is. How dare you? If you come to me and you say that is a stereotype that Asians are good at math, well, I'll get offended. You mean all the hard work my family put in to be good at math because they did? Because this is true. I was homeschooled before I started formal education by my mom so I could be better at math. That's a stereotype. So if someone comes to me and asks for help with a math problem, that's offensive. How dare you? That's racist. The point I'm making here is not that I actually care about these diversity things. I do. I think many of them are really dumb. I like the idea of telling people not to be a dick and don't be racist. But these videos, these training courses they do typically reinforce racism. And there's been studies showing that doing these diversity trainings actually just makes things worse. All of a sudden now you're tippy-toeing around your coworkers, you're treating them differently, and you're focusing on the color of their skin instead of the person you knew. A guy comes in, his name is Juan Rodriguez or something, and you've known him for 5 years, you worked with him, and you know him as a regular, good old American who likes watching football with you and going to the bar, and then one day they make you watch this video about Latino families or whatever, and now you're supposed to be like, oh, I better not say that because I can make him angry. Dude, treat him like a regular person. The problem is there are too many people who want to